Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for December 14th, 2013. It's currently 8:44 a.m. and we are dealing with a very impressive and potentially interesting storm here for the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. This video will focus entirely on the storm and not on the next several days, which quite frankly will be very quiet with high pressure in control. So here we have our storm, and right now we have scattered snow showers developing throughout the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. The steady snow should really take shape by about 1 p.m. By then, there could be some changeover over southern New Jersey as that warm air is already starting to invade. Here is our main storm, and this is one dynamic disturbance with the subtropical jet stream, and this disturbance will basically ride towards Virginia and then jump towards the New Jersey coast and out into the Atlantic over the next 24 hours. And it's going to do so rather quickly. Let's face it, after this moves through, that's it. It's done. The storm's done. So keep an eye on that and remember that going forward as we look at the model guidance here and as we look at the observations, more importantly, taking shape. Right now, this is the mesonet, and you can see cold air driving south. Our Arctic cold front is moving through now, and temperatures are reflecting that very, very interestingly with, let's say, for example, Atlantic City, for example. Atlantic City is at 32, Wildwood's at 37. Wildwood is going to see pretty much rain out of this because the stationary front, or should I say the Arctic front, is starting to stall into a stationary front, and you could clearly see the difference in temperatures, and more importantly, the difference in dew points here, as we have dew points in the teens in Pennsylvania and northwestern New Jersey and over New York City. And you can see the air, the wind, should I say, is coming in from the northeast for almost all locations at around 5 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 20 miles per hour. We have some sustained 20 miles per hour winds right along the coast. So we have Arctic air clearly building in, and we have moisture on the way. And of course, this means we're going to see snow, sleet, and freezing rain. The question is, how fast does the warm air take hold along the coast? That's the whole question to this entire forecast moving forward. And so these observations where you have an Arctic air mass just to your north funneling down with dew points in the single digits and temperatures in the teens, this tells me, and we've learned from previous storms, that the cold air is going to put up a heck of a fight. The question is where and for how long? That's the whole question to this entire forecast moving forward. So here's our infrared satellite picture. You can see our storm really starting to get itself together, really starting to organize. These low pressure systems will merge into one low pressure system that will sit over the New Jersey coast. Here's our Arctic high pressure system that will shift towards Maine. Now, I'm going to show you this in the water vapor satellite picture, but this pattern is not conducive for a storm to, let's say, track from the Delmarva Peninsula towards the benchmark. We don't have enough high latitude blocking. We know that because the high pressure system is going to shift towards the Canadian Maritimes. So we know that warm air is going to eventually win out along the coast. Again, the question really comes down to timing with this Arctic air mass building south and plenty of moisture on the way. Now we can see that very clearly on the water vapor satellite picture. Here's our high pressure system again. Here's our Arctic air mass. Here's our subtropical disturbance. It's intensifying, it's growing, it's becoming a beast, and it's going to move due east towards the Delmarva Peninsula. The problem is that over the Canadian Maritimes, we don't have any upper level low. We have a progressive pattern here. So this progressive pattern, although impressive in nature as far as the Arctic air, just does not support Arctic air locking in down to the coastal plain and this low pressure system tracking further east, which would lead to a much colder solution. There just isn't the 500 millibar support for that type of solution. Now, have stranger things have happened? Yes. But right now, I don't see that happening at all, and thus there's been no change to the forecast since yesterday morning, actually since 2 nights ago. So as a result, here is what we're going to be watching. This right here is surface frontogenesis. Basically, think of it as a very strong temperature gradient. And this frontogenesis is going to be lifting up basically towards the I-95 corridor. So coastal New Jersey, you're going to go to rain. Not a problem. Get maybe an inch of snow at most and changing over to rain. the areas from, let's say, southeastern Connecticut, all of Long Island, all of the New York City metropolitan area, including southwestern Connecticut, down through central New Jersey, basically Monmouth, Mercer, and Middlesex counties, and then towards the Philadelphia metro. That's where this is going to set up this evening. And that's where this forecast becomes very interesting, because a difference of 5 miles will mean the difference between heavy snow and heavy rain. It will mean the difference between temperatures in the upper 20s and temperatures in the upper 30s or even lower 40s. In one model, it had a difference of temperatures from 24 to 44. That's a 20-degree difference. So the point here is that we have a very strong thermal gradient that's going to set up in the I-95 corridor in this area right here. And any shift in that gradient while the heaviest precipitation is moving through will have a significant impact on the forecast for these areas. Interior, you're all heavy snow, easy forecast, could see up to a foot. For northwestern New Jersey, snow sleet, for the most part, 3 to 6 inches likely, as that warm air at the mid-levels invades. But the question is right here, and what type of dynamics will be at play. As far as what's going on right now, oh, by the way, just want to show one other aspect here. This is pretty important. This is 850 millibar temperatures here. As you can see, it's pretty cold. Freezing lines all the way down to Virginia, and we have what's called photogenesis going on at 850 millibars. We have a very strong gradient here setting up here. Now you can see at 850 millibars, we have winds from the south and the southwest trying to drive that warm air north. So in these areas, we have warm air trying to invade. And also notice our photogenesis here setting up to the north here. This is going to shift down as that packing really starts to intensify over central New Jersey. When you look at 925 millibars though, major difference. You have winds starting to come in from the northeast via that higher pressure, but also from the southeast via so we have a nice gradient here set up at 925 millibars. And then of course at the surface, when you go down to the surface here, you have winds coming in from the northeast via our 1040 now millibar high pressure system. And this is the other thing that's key too. This high pressure system is going to peak in strength right now at 1040 millibars, driving that cold air south. But then, well, then it's going to start to weaken as it's moving forward over the next several hours. So again, here's our observations. Let's refresh this just to make sure. This is from the Penn State UL website. See what's going on right now. As you can see, high pressure is building in. It takes hold. This blue area right here, that means pressure rises. Okay? So you can see high pressure clearly building into the region, but you can also see that it's starting to shift towards Maine. Again, another indication that this high pressure system is not going to be able to lock in. Yes, it builds into cold air. Yes, we have below freezing temperatures over many locations, but it's not able to lock in. One other thing I want to show you with the SPC website, this is going to be something we're going to watch at the initial start of the storm. Our wet bulb temperature, as you can see, except for extreme southern New Jersey, Cape May, where I'm only expecting a trace to an inch in these locations right here. Everyone else, wet bulbs down into the 20s. From much of New Jersey back through Pennsylvania here and into the teens in some of these locations. So when the heavy precipitation starts, expect a drop in your temperatures. So here's the forecast from the latest RAP guidance. And I'm kind of using this as a way to explain what's happening with this storm. I don't necessarily endorse the forecast here from the RAP, but it gives a good indication of what's happening here. So here we are this morning, our high pressure system's building in, it's intensifying, but notice it's shifting towards the Gulf of Maine. And here comes our low pressure system. Now by tonight, what we are going to start to see is a new coastal low take shape, but look how far inland it is. It's over basically the Chesapeake Bay, and by tonight it's going to be developing right over southern New Jersey. That's going to drive warm air in, but notice, let's zoom in, how tight this gradient is. We go from 44 to 24. Okay, so this type of gradient here that you see set up here, if this is just a little bit further east, That makes a huge difference for central New Jersey, Philadelphia, and New York City. And I'm not talking about 50 miles east. I'm talking about 10 miles east. That's how tight this gradient is going to be. So we're going to have to watch that very, very carefully. And the other point I want to make also is that the bulk of the heavy precipitation is going to be this evening and tonight. By 1 a.m. Sunday, we'll see a major dry slide drive in from the southern mid-Atlantic towards the northern mid-Atlantic. So if you have plans for tomorrow morning, for the most part, the storm is going to be over. But it's going to be a pretty impressive system for this afternoon into tonight. And we're going to see some pretty strong banding set up here and some periods of very heavy precipitation, whether that's snow, sleet, or rain, will depend not only on your location, but the speed of the warm air advection. And then finally, here is the forecast I have in place. The start time, which means steady precipitation between 1 and 3 p.m., looks like this end time might be a little bit too late. I'm going for 7 to 8 a.m. where everything dries out completely, but I wouldn't be surprised if most of this is done by 5 a.m. if not earlier. And then the worst conditions will be between 5 p.m. this afternoon and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. In the purple areas, again, most of the interior here, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Hartford, Allentown, Sussex, New Jersey, looking at 5 to 10 inches of snow. That 5 inches based on the idea that there's going to be some breaks in the snowshoe here because of very strong lifting over northwestern New Jersey. So locations like northeastern Pennsylvania most likely going to be closer to that 5-inch total. And then locally up to 12 inches, especially right over portions of Connecticut back towards northwestern New Jersey. You could see a burst here or there of some heavy snowfall pushing you to a foot in these locations. But again, most locations will be between 5 to 10 inches. In the dark blue shade, this is where sleet starts mixing in, looking for 3 to 6 inches of snow, up to 1/10 of an inch of ice. The cold air at the surface really holds on here, but at 850 millibars, you warm up above freezing, thus the threat for ice. So look for sleet, freezing rain, snow. It's going to be a mess up here with 3 to 6 inches of snow and up to 1/10 of an inch, possibly more if the cold air really holds on in these locations. And then in the light blue shade, this is again where our high volatility is really setting up. I'm looking at 2 to 4 inches of snow, been looking at that. Locally up to 6 if this cold air really starts to put up a fight. Rain by 1 a.m. Sunday at the latest. Okay? So this area will change over to rain. It's just a question again of when. And then finally in the green shade, easy forecast. The warm air is going to win the fight in these locations pretty easily. Looking at a trace to 2 inches of snow. Rain by 8 to 11 p.m. Probably a lot earlier in Cape May. And again, pretty much a trace to 2 inches. If you're along the New Jersey coast, Brick, Atlantic City, look more for like a trace to an inch. It's not going to be that big of a deal for you down here. So this is going to be a complicated storm, and I'll have live coverage throughout the day on this storm as things start to evolve. Thank you again for watching this video, and thank you for following NYNJPA Weather. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. You can follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and NYNJPA Weather on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. Have a wonderful day, and of course, stay